What's going on, everybody? It's the Indoor Hunter, and in today's video we are going to be doing a quick start guide for those of you just starting out your careers in the Hunter Call of the Wild, and maybe for some of you making your return not really knowing what's going on, what's been happening, and hopefully this can help some of you become a little more successful in your future hunts. I figured we'd try to answer some of the most common questions that I see posted around in various forums like Reddit, our Discord, YouTube comments, stuff like that. Hopefully being able to help you guys get better at this game. We've actually got a shed here. We're going to go ahead and pick that up. Now, for you guys just starting out, doing something like that is going to provide an XP bonus, so I definitely recommend keeping your eyes peeled for that. I, however, am level 60, so it's just nothing more than something to add to the codex. Now, one of the biggest tips I can give to beginner players is don't get sucked into trying to find diamonds, rares, great ones, and all that right off the bat. Your job right now should be to level up, unlock your perks, unlock your traits, get to where you can hunt a lot more successfully, because this game is very difficult when you're first starting out. When you've got nothing, the game is pretty hard. Now, obviously that task is much easier said than done, but hopefully this video will help you accomplish that much faster. Now, one of the first things that I want to talk about is need zones and hunting pressure. This is a very common theme that I see pop up all the time from new players, and it's understandable because it's pretty confusing if you don't know what the heck is going on. So when it comes to need zones, you can see here we've got an icon on the map. This is a roe deer need zone. This is actually a feed zone. It's indicated by the green with the leaf in the middle. From 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. That means there are a group, maybe even a single roe deer, that is coming to this spot consistently and eating. Now, there are three types of need zones. We've got a drink zone here, red deer, 6 to 10. Something to keep in mind, every single animal species has their own respective times that they're going to be at a need zone, so I would recommend downloading the Hunter Call of the Wild companion app or finding those resources online, because even myself, because there's so many species, I actually have to reference it constantly in order to remember which drink times are what. Now, obviously some of the animals that you're more keen to hunt more often, like whitetail, you're going to get that memorized fairly quickly. There's also rest zones located throughout the map. I actually don't know if I have any on my Hirschfeld map. I don't actually hunt my own Hirschfelden all too often, but there are also rest zones there where the animals will go to rest, but it's all kind of the same. They work the same way. Depending on which type of need zone they are, that's where they're going to be. Now, obviously hunting water or drink zones is going to make the game a little bit easier, because most of the time around lakes, ponds, and rivers, it's fairly clear, open, it's easy to see those animals. There are some exceptions, of course, because like this river system, for example, it's pretty heavily laden with cattails, and it can actually be difficult to see stuff in there, but when it's their drink time, you know they're going to be located at water. When it comes to, say, feed zones or rest zones, they could be completely random anywhere on the map, so it's a lot harder to actually find those. Now, something important to keep in mind when it comes to need zones, animals are on the map all the time. They may not be rendered, but they're there, which means they are in real time. When it's time to go from a feed zone to a drink zone, they've actually got to make that journey, and whether there's obstacles, predators, or whatever. So if you come to an area and it's the very beginning of their drink time, that animal may not actually be there because he's simply traveling from his current location. Some of them are farther than others, some of them are closer. So that's one of those things you're going to have to do your homework on. Discover those herds, figure out which time they show up to their need zone, and it's going to make it a lot easier. So don't get too worried or too discouraged if you come up on a need zone and the animals aren't there yet. Just be patient, they're going to be there eventually. You can kind of prevent this by going through and changing time, but if you don't have a lot of money and you're just starting out, I don't recommend that method. Now, this is user preference. I myself actually like to go into my settings. Let's go to interface. You can see here where it says point of interest icons and need zone icons. So let's go ahead and turn that on. This is a helpful and useful tool because as you're walking through, need zones that you've already got discovered will actually show up right in front of your face. You'll know, okay, there's a red deer drink zone. It's getting ready to be their drink time. Let's just set up on it, wait them out. They'll come to you eventually. It's just one of those little things. Again, that's user preference. Some people find it annoying. Typically, if I'm recording a video, I actually have that turned off just so it's not there because it's very, very obvious. But if you're just starting out, it is a very useful tool. Now, when it comes to need zones, there is some caution to be exercised. We can see here we've got a fallow deer at about 300 meters, which is kind of a stretch, but we're going to take it anyway. Got a couple out there, actually. So what I'm going to do here is, the estimate says 270 to 290 meters, but I'm actually going to go to my map, and you can see here it actually shows you exactly where he's standing at, and he's standing at 297 meters. Now it's important to do this because sometimes, even though you've got the binoculars, you can see here it's telling me he's at 280, when in fact I know he's at 297. So it's not that important when you've got a rifle, but if you're hunting with a bow, this could make the difference between getting a successful harvest and an unsuccessful one. So we're actually going to go ahead and zero for 300, aim just a little low, take him out right there. So he's down, and you can see what we've got here. This purple splotch is known as hunting pressure, and hunting pressure is kind of a mechanic that they've added to the game to basically not allow you to just kill everything in sight, because this need zone, if we were to kill 2 more animals here, that would actually erase that need zone. It would go away, and eventually it would come up somewhere else on the map, making it even harder to actually locate your animals. So when you are at your need zones hunting, you want to be careful of your hunting pressure, because too much of it will delete that need zone. So how much hunting pressure is too much? You can look over here at this lake. We've absolutely annihilated it by shooting too many European bison, and it has subsequently erased the need zone that they use. Now hopefully it will eventually come back at this lake, but who knows. Now there are ways to prevent an excessive amount of hunting pressure. Obviously trigger discipline, don't be shooting just everything that in sight you see, but hunting from a hunting structure that are found throughout the map, or from tripods, tree stands, and ground blinds, those will all reduce hunting pressure, making you able to actually shoot a lot more animals out of a single herd without the risk of ruining that need zone. Hunting with a bow will also create reduced hunting pressure, and in fact, if you hunt from a hunting structure with a bow, it's basically not adding any hunting pressure. It's kind of awesome. You can hunt and shoot a lot of stuff while doing that combination. Next topic I kind of want to brush over real quick is the difference between polymer tipped ammunition and soft point ammunition. I see this get asked a lot, and basically at the end of the day, polymer tip ammunition is typically the way to go. It's going to allow a lot more penetration, allowing you to actually hit a lot more vital organs or even punch through bone, which is pretty important. Then again, on the flip coin, technically soft point ammunition, if you're within the effective range of the weapon that you're using, it does do more damage, but you need to have a good shot because it doesn't have very good penetration. So if you hit a bone, rib cage, something like that, you may not actually get the kill. You may just simply wound that animal. So it's a safe bet to use polymer tips. That said, soft point ammunition is much cheaper. So if you unlock a new weapon, can't afford or don't have the polymer tip ammunition unlocked, just keep in mind good marksmanship fundamentals and make sure you're well within that effective range of whichever weapon system that you're actually using, and you'll have a pretty successful day. But long story short, polymer tip versus soft point. Polymer tips are more expensive, but they are highly effective, and as you get that cash flow, they are going to end up paying for themselves. And speaking of money, people ask, what's the best way to make money? And there's definitely some, I wouldn't call them exploits, but there's some cheesy ways to get some money. And I've definitely made some videos in the past. Lions are absolutely broken. Wolves are broken in multiplayer. But if you're just starting out, don't have multiplayer, just want to figure things out on your own, the best way to make money is probably to be doing missions, getting those completed, and just shooting everything that you see. Now, obviously, keeping hunting pressure in mind, don't discriminate between males and females. Females will pay you money just like males do, and if you've got a giant herd of, let's say, red deer and it's nothing but females, blast away, make you some quick cash, earn that money. If you've got a trophy lodge, I wouldn't recommend taxidermying everything you shoot unless that's your kind of thing, but they cost a significant amount of money to taxidermy, and I would probably wait until you get something worthy of that trophy lodge. Now, I've actually got a video on which perks and traits are the best in the game. I definitely recommend newcomers to go check that video out. So we're kind of going to brush over that, but it's very important to keep on top of your perks and skills. This is what's going to make or break your hunting success. These are absolutely important. Make sure you're paying attention when you get those unlock points. Go ahead and use them. Unlock all the goodies. That way it makes it so much easier. I can remember first starting out, I didn't think I was going to be able to hit anything because my scope was shaky and couldn't hold my breath long, and well, you can solve those problems with perks and traits. Now let's talk about some basic gameplay tips and tricks, something that will hopefully help you along. Starting out with the HUD down in the bottom right, we've got our compass, shows what we've got equipped, we've got our heart rate, we've got our visibility, and how much sound we're making. Now, when you're out in the field, you don't have a tent and tripod, you got stuff out there that you want to be sneaky about, you can actually use the environment to conceal yourself with. You can see here we are completely hidden, nothing can see us, we're good to go. This works with all kinds of stuff. There are definitely perks that make this even better, but that's something, the environmental factor is something to keep in mind. You got shrubbery and stuff like this, you need to get sneaky real fast, get up close personal. As you can see there, we're fairly hidden. That little white line there typically indicates that animals can't see you until they get about 25 meters or so from you. The half moon circle there that you can see means they can see you at about 50 meters. And then, of course, when it's a full circle, they can see you at whatever range their eyesight is. The sound meter, of course, is fairly self-explanatory. You can see there at the bottom right, we're making a pretty good amount of noise, and that's something you don't want, because as you can see, we just alarmed this roe deer. It should be able to see us, and now, of course, it's going to be fleeing because not only did it hear us, it saw us as well. In those types of situations, obviously dropping down and hoping for the best is what you should do there. But again, this stuff actually gets better and better as you rank up and level up those traits and perks. That's why it's important to do that, because you become even stealthier, even quieter, and it makes things just a lot easier. To add to that, something that you may be tempted to do right off the gate, I personally wouldn't recommend buying a backpack until you're leveled up and really need to do so. Starting out, there may be that temptation there, but when you've got a backpack on, and I've actually got it now, I'm sprinting, we're making a lot of noise, everything can see us, and it's actually a lot harder to hide with the backpack on as well. It adds to your visibility, adds to your noise. Don't really recommend it, it can hurt your hunt. Now, obviously, if you're setting up tents and tripods, you need the room, you're not actively hunting, go for it. But if you're out there in the wild trying to hunt stuff down, don't bring the backpack. It's just going to make it way harder. And now that we've got the backpack off, we're full-blown sprinting right now. As you can see, we don't have any red bars. We're still pretty loud. We're still going to scare stuff, but this is going to make our mobility that much better, because we're going to be able to actually get somewhat close, at least within rifle range of an animal, without spooking it. Now, let's say, hypothetically, you do spook an animal, and you really want to shoot it, but you're kind of scared to chase it down. You don't want to chase it away any further. Just be patient. It's important to find those need zones, because those animals are going to be back. You can either change time, which costs money, and if you're just starting out, you probably don't have a lot of it, but you can change time back to their drink time or whatever time their need zone is and simply wait them out, or you can try to track them down. But I've found, in my experience, once you've spooked something, it's typically ill-advisable to chase after them unless you really know where they're going to go. You could end up on a wild goose chase, which I've been on several times, and it never really typically works out. Definitely recommend playing the patient game and finding those need zones, going back to where they're going to be and just simply hunting them from there. But speaking on that, let's say, for example, you've got a trophy animal that you really want to put in your trophy lodge. Let's say it's like a diamond or a rare or something really cool, but you've got him spooked. You just can't get on him and you don't have a need zone. What you can do is actually follow his tracks backwards all the way until eventually you're going to find a need zone. Random tip, but potentially important: don't waste your time trying to glass or scan super far away. Animals will only render in at about 450 meters. I've found it best to get them within 380 meters or so. That way you can actually spot them. So I know it's tempting and it's unfortunate to want to jump on a big hill and look out across, and unfortunately it's just not going to work out. Stick to glassing areas that are within that 300 to 400 meter range, because that's where animals will actually render in. You'll actually be able to visibly see them. Otherwise, you're kind of wasting your time. Now, this random tip is directed at PC players, and this one's one of those that's definitely personal preference, but I would personally recommend on your PC in the settings turning your scene down to the lowest setting. That way you don't have a bunch of tall, thick grass everywhere. It's actually going to render just like this, and it's a pretty big advantage being able to do that, because you can look out there, see stuff like this, because otherwise there may be tall grass out there, and if you've got that thing, or the scene complexity at full blast, you might not actually see those animals. So definitely recommend tuning that system down. It'll look just like this. It makes spotting rabbits and little stuff out there at a distance way easier. Now, something important to keep in mind too is the class of animal. You can see we've got a female fallow deer here, but in the top right corner you can see a number 4. That means she is class 4, which indicates which ammunition or weapon we can actually use to successfully harvest her. So if we look at our inventory, look at our ammunition, we can see 223 polymer tip. That is recommended class 2 through 4, meaning we can actually shoot her and pass the harvest check. Now, what's the harvest check? We're gonna have to shoot her and find out. All right, we've got her here. We've got 223 polymer tips. We're gonna go ahead, take the shot, and we're gonna watch. Now, obviously, as you progress, you're gonna have the ability to watch her health drop. She's dropping down. We know we made a good hit, but if you don't have any of those perks yet, how are you gonna know you got a good hit? Let's go find where we shot her at, and we'll be able to find out pretty quickly. Now, we can see her tracks highlighted here, and you can actually change the color of all your tracks and stuff like that in the menu. It's pretty useful. So if there's a color that really stands out to you, I recommend changing it to that color. But as you can see here, this is what we want to see. Vital organ hit just now. That means we've got a good shot on her. Let's track her down and see what is going on. Now, as we track, we can actually pull out our hunter mate. And again, as you level up, you're going to be able to make this even better. We've got a tracking cone indicating which direction she's running. And eventually, as you can see there in the hunter mate, it's actually going to connect the dots, creating a very clear path on which way she's going. Now, if you'll notice, she didn't drop immediately. We got a good hit on her, but she went pretty far. Let's see what exactly happened. We got a single long. We were actually a little high. We almost got in the spine there. That would have been bad. But because we were using the 223 soft or the polymer tips, it's not the best gun for this animal. She is a class 4. 223 is class 4, 2 to 4. Typically, if you're using a gun and it's at the highest limit of that animal, it's going to run for a while. But if it's what you got, it's what you got. But let's talk about this menu here. If you go down, you can see the harvest check. This is very important when it comes to making money and getting trophies and diamonds. We can see we use the proper animal. So that's where that class thing is very important to know what it is. So you're not using the wrong caliber bullet on the wrong animal. You obviously don't want to be shooting a rabbit with a 7mm. Animal shot 2 times or less, so you only want to shoot them twice. Intact trophy organs, you can see there the trophy organs for her are actually none. However, for male species, it's going to be the head or spine, something like that. You'd want to make good ethical shots, heart shots, lung shots, stuff like that. Hit one vital organ or more. Obviously, again, with the ethical shots, you want to hit those vital organs. You don't want to make bad shots. If you gut shot it or shoot it in the legs, and you're going to ruin your trophy. Now, if we come down here, we can look at our money and XP. Quick kill bonus, that's how fast the animal dropped. Now, the bigger bullets that we used, because she's a class 4 animal, had we used a bigger caliber gun, that would have been a 100% quick kill. The faster they die, the more money and XP you get. Harvest check, we passed it, we got a 100% score for that. Species difficulty, 50%, that will change between all the species, every one of them is different. Consecutive harvest bonus. Now, back in the day, that was very, very important because that played a lot into your trophy scores, but nowadays that is simply literally what it means, consecutive harvest. So the more animals that you hunt and shoot and collect, the bigger and bigger that gets until you get 100%, meaning every time you shoot an animal, you actually make more and more money until it gets capped out. That's for everything that you shoot in the game. So if you're in a hunting session and you're trying to make money, make sure the stuff that you're shooting you're actually harvesting. That way you can get a consecutive harvest. That way you can get more XP, get more cash. Now, last but certainly not least, let's talk about the equipment you should be striving for when you're starting out the game. You're going to be starting out with a 243, which is an excellent gun. It's accurate. Ammo's cheap for it. However, it's really only good for smaller animals like coyotes, foxes, bobcats, stuff like that. I don't recommend shooting deer with the 243. However, it's what you start out with. It's what you're going to have to use until you can get enough weapon score to unlock better weapons. But the guy you really want to be striving for is this one right here, the 7mm Empress. This gun is kind of the GOAT, honestly. It's so good, in fact, that I actually bought the DLC version of this gun, which actually has 3 rounds instead of just 1. This is going to allow you to hunt animals class 4 all the way up through class 9, so you can hunt buffalo. It's a really good moose gun. Definitely you want to be striving for unlocking that 7mm as soon as possible. That way you can have far more successful hunts. It makes deer hunting so much easier. This has the ability to instantly kill whitetail, fallow deer, stuff like that. And then of course we've got the 270. This is kind of a bridge between that 243 and 7mm. It's an excellent gun. It's very accurate. Again, the ammo is somewhat cheap in comparison to the 7mm. It's just not as strong. This will allow you to hunt animals 4 through 8. Definitely recommend that as that in between, it's just going to make your money come in that much faster. Eventually you will be able to unlock the 338, which is basically for class 9 animals. It's a better moose gun, but the ammo is very expensive. It's actually kind of hard to use, especially if you're shooting stuff on the move. I don't know how much I recommend getting that guy, but it's not a terrible weapon. But the 7mm is definitely by far the most important gun you need to be working on to unlock, because that's going to open the doors for basically every species or big game species in the game to you. Bows, they're actually one of the best weapons in the game. They have insane penetration. If you unlock perks towards them, they become even better. Obviously, they're limited by range, but they're incredibly powerful. Definitely recommend trying around playing with those. Shotguns, they're really only useful for bird species if you're hunting waterfowl, stuff like that. So as you're starting out, I wouldn't focus too much on those shotguns. You definitely want to start working out getting the range finding binoculars, because they're just an incredibly useful tool. They're not perfect, like I said. Checking the map to make sure exactly where your animal's staying at is always the best practice, but it's very useful to get a quick estimation. Obviously best in the game. Definitely want to work towards unlocking those, getting those bad boys. Something to keep in mind, the clothing that is available in the game is purely aesthetic. It does nothing for camouflage or anything like that. So when you're starting out, don't recommend spending a ton of money on these until you get enough that you can obviously play around with, because again, purely aesthetic, does nothing for you outside of making it look a little bit cooler. Scent eliminator can be useful. The same with first aid kits. However, for a new player, they're very expensive, so I would use them sparingly. And when it comes to weapon scopes, the Hyperion 4x8 is probably the most used in the community. It's a very good scope. It's very clear. It's got excellent zoom. It's just a good scope. You need to unlock this. It's going to make you be able to shoot stuff at longer ranges far easier. Then we've got the Argus. This is an 8x16. This thing has insane zoom, makes those long range shots a breeze. I actually prefer this scope, but it's a little bit harder to use because the field of view while using it is pretty limited. And if you're still really shaky, don't have those perks unlocked yet, this scope can make it very difficult. So this one's definitely more of an advanced scope, but it's not a bad one to have. If there's anything that you're curious about that I may not have answered in this video, go ahead and ask those in the comments below, or if you haven't already, join the Discord. Our community is very helpful. I'm very active in our Discord, and I am more than willing to answer any questions you might have pertaining to the Hunter Call of the Wild. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you on the next one.